Hayden, why didn't you wear your big hat?
What?
Why didn't you wear your big hat?
Oh, next time.
Thing is, that's a long. Sun never hits your face, does it?
That's what you call an Arizona strip hat.
Yeah. You cannot wear that hat in your truck.
If I take the headrest off, I can.
Yeah, with the headrest off. I might get whiplash, but I can wear my 4-foot-long hat.
I figured if I sat in the back, I'd be able to.
You can turn all you want there.
I'll be out in front of everybody, so it's too late now.
We've known each other a long time, Hayden. I feel like I'm allowed to do that.
You've earned it.
It's time, right?
Yeah, you're 2 minutes after.
Very good. Good afternoon, everyone. We'd like to welcome you to the Washington County Board of Commissioners. We appreciate everyone being here today and apologize for just a 2-minute late start. As we begin our meeting, we have the honor of having Jim Hendricks here from the Community of Christ Church to give us our invocation, also representing our local Interfaith Council. After our invocation, we'll be led in our Pledge of Allegiance by Adele Murphy, Councilwoman Adele, as well as a esteemed assessor here. She'll lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance. So.
Ladies and gentlemen, Commission, I guess you call it Commission. At any rate, I won't be long, 5 or 10 minutes. Probably 10 minutes because the council looks like it needs a lot of help.
Yeah, we do, please.
At any rate, if we pray with me, please. Heavenly Father, we gather here to conduct the business of our county. And a blessed county it is, Father, a blessed part of your creation that is so beautiful. We thank you and we look to this council meeting that everyone might be in harmony as it is within our county. We're blessed with the presence of the Lord. We're blessed that we can have peace and harmony in our county. We do have a couple of critical needs, however, one of which is the lack of water. So, Lord, we pray that you might bring us a monsoon season that would have abundance of water this year, and that it might help alleviate some of the risk of fire and our fire hazards. You have blessed us, Father. We seek you now, that your Holy Spirit might be with us, that we might have a harmonious meeting, that we all might be touched with the wisdom that only you can bring. Be with us, Father. Bless this group. We pray it in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much. Beautiful.
Okay, everybody please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much, both of you. Our first item on our agenda today is our consent agenda. The consent agenda is a means of expediting the consideration of routine matters. If a commissioner requests that items be removed from the consent agenda, those items are placed at the beginning of the regular agenda. Other than a request to remove items, a motion to approve the items on the consent agenda is non-debatable.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the consent agenda as follows. A, consideration of auditor approved claims for payment for June 8th, 2022 through June 21st, 2022. B, consideration of regular commission meeting minutes of June 7th, 2022. C, consideration of administrative adjustments, personal property, of which there are 7. D, consideration of Utah Commission on Criminal and Juvenile Justice grant. E, consideration of disposal of surplus property. F, acknowledgement of publication of notice of adoption of ordinance number 2022-1208-0 and ordinance number 2022-1209-0 on Sunday, June 12th, 2022. And that's my motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on our consent agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion passes. Our first item is recognizing a couple fantastic employees here at the county. And I don't know who's going to come talk about Shelley, but very good.
My name is David Miller. I'm with the assessor's office, and Shelley Gallegos has been in our office now for 15 years. She has been working in the assessor's office. Although her title is an appraiser assistant, she's lots of other things other than assisting appraisers over there. She's helped in personal property at times when it's been needed. She's been cross-trained in multiple aspects of our office and can really do lots of things within our office, and she's been very, very dedicated. Just for an example, this past year she handled more than once, just because of the work that she does, about 6,500 building permits that she's prepared and gotten ready and prepared for the appraisers to go out and inspect properties. Along with keeping that straight and keeping it all in order and tracking those down and meeting with the city officials to make sure we have all the permits that are available to us to go out and inspect. But she's been with us a long time. Prior to coming here, she worked for the IRS for several years. She thinks working for local government's better than federal government.
Yes,
Amen.
yes, and very good.
So we appreciate all that she's done here, and a very dedicated and very good employee.
Can I just say that the assessor's office, they do a lot of hard work over there, and just great employees. I mean, we have great departments, and it's not a department; it's an elected office. But just going over there and watching how each appraiser, I mean, you have a lot of work every day because each property needs to be assessed. Is it every other year every property has to be assessed, or is it?
We actually look at every property either physically or statistically every year.
Every year, exactly.
For the most part, we do go out and visit certain properties every 5 years, depending if they're improved or not. But we have a lot of vacant land, too, that has to get looked at every single
I
year.
just think you guys do a fantastic job. Shelley, fantastic. We do have something to give.
We'd like to be excused. We're going to head back and continue our work. So.
Joel, like to come talk about Dustin?
Well, I'm pleased to introduce Dustin. 15 years with the county, IT extraordinaire for the library. Really, his role is database administrator. So he keeps our enterprise and our Horizon system up and going. Works with CRC Dynex often to make sure that we're serving the public well. But beyond that, he really is just whatever I need, he's there to help. He helped put together shelves for Hilldale, helped clean up flood in St. George. If I just have an extra project that he's always willing to do whatever is asked. So appreciate him and all that he does to keep us up and going.
Fantastic. Now, who's older? You or Jared? Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Jared's older.
Fantastic. We enjoy both. Well, super. Thank you so much, Dustin. Our next item is, Top Gun's out now, and whenever I think of Top Gun, I think of George. And George Gio has been doing a great job with our shooting sports park. Over the last few years, a lot of people are still getting familiar with our shooting sports park out in Purgatory, but it is just a wonderful facility. I like to tell the story that I can remember quite a few years ago when Brent Jensen first, I was a friend of his, and I was involved in what's called Friends of the NRA Banquet, helping him organize that. And he'd come to the county to try to form this park. And at the time, it was really just dirt. And to go out there today and just to realize all of the just probably tens of thousands of volunteer hours that have taken place to really make that facility what it is today, whether it's the shotgun venue, whether it's Red Cliffs, or a lot of people like to drive out and maybe they see the cowboy action. They have kind of their fancy sets there, or also the great events that go on there at Purgatory. But George Gio has been involved the entire time that I've been a county commissioner. He's been involved with our advisory board and with our board as a chairman, and just kind of guiding that through. And we have had a few kind of issues with ricochets, and for some reason neighbors get a little nervous when bullets bounce into their yards and stuff. And so we've had to really kind of have some hard conversations and try to find solutions to that. And George has just been kind of that constant person that's really been able to kind of guide this committee through. And he's done a great job at helping the different venues. Each one of those venues is governed by each venue. People need to appreciate it represents a shooting sport out there, and so they're governed by people that are very passionate, and sometimes they get along, and other days it's kind of like a family. Sometimes they don't. And George has always been able to kind of not get too, been able to kind of navigate that and just do a great job. And George, I just want to thank you. I want to thank you for your service to our country. And I haven't seen the new Top Gun. I assume you have. Yes. And so I'll go see it, and then I'll get your edits back on how. Now, it's my understanding you were actually there when they filmed the original Top Gun, right? In VF1 at Miramar. That's fantastic. And I am a graduate of Top Gun. Yeah.
Oh,
Wow.
So fantastic. We should give you a plaque just for that as well. So, but George. We already have a plaque. Fantastic. Yes. Well, we do have a small token of recognition that we'd like to give you and get a picture, if that's okay. Yep.
Sorry for the walk, but unfortunately it's necessary now. No worries.
I just hope you know how much we appreciate you. I know. How much I personally appreciate you.
I know that.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you. And you'll like the new movie.
All right. I've heard
The flying scenes are freaking amazing. It's fun to see what it's like.
that may have been the greatest trump card I've ever heard of. We should get you a plaque. I've got one as a graduate of Top Gun. Not a lot of people can say that. That is awesome.
So true. That's true.
Yep. Very nice.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Our next item is a presentation from Intermountain Healthcare. Let's see, Terry, Mitch. How's it going?
We each get a free night stay.
Oh,
I don't know that that's a gift under any circumstance.
no, probably not. But if with your permission, and you've been so generous with your time, we'll have this be our last update until the fall or until you feel like you want us to come back.
Well, hopefully this is a once-in-a-lifetime pandemic, and we can kind of...
Amen. Yeah. But maybe this is a good way to just conclude things on a really positive note about how it all began here in St. George with the county commissioners and Intermountain Healthcare. So we just have all we have is really a short video about how it all began with Commissioner Murray Webb. I think he was the chair in 1976, and they were concerned about running a hospital and building a prison and roads and infrastructure, and they said, we need help. So that's how this all began. So
Great.
Cheyenne, can you play that? In 1976, there was an amazing act. That act was a handshake between two great individuals who had a lot of integrity. That act was performed quietly and without ceremony. Each individual represented their organization in a way that would shape the future of healthcare. And no one could have known that it was a handshake and a promise that would define healthcare for our region.
In the early part of 1976, we'd been just about a year in getting Intermountain Healthcare started. I was told that an investor-owned company had come down and been talking to the county commissioners here. And when I came down, I said, I understand you guys are thinking about selling the hospital. He said, we don't want to ever go through another major hospital project like we've just been through. It's just drained us. We need to build a new prison. We've got some streets and bridges that need to be repaired. And this other company has offered us several $1 million. And we thought we ought to come down and just see what you'd be willing to do with us and whether or not you'd be an option we ought to look at too. Told them about our mission statement, how we felt about the employees and how we valued them, and how determined we were to keep costs as low as possible and really work hard on quality and try to make this system really become one of great reputation. And so that's what I bring you, gentlemen. And this is probably going to be bad news for you, but let me just ask you, do you have any debt on this hospital you've just built? And they said, yes, we've got a bond that we've got to pay off. All I can offer you is everything that you have put into the hospital, including the unpaid debt. We'll take the balance sheet for the hospital alone, but we will not take the balance sheet, can't, for what you're going to need for a prison or bridges. But I thought that's the end of that conversation. And finally, I got a call not too many days later, and they said, we thought over what you've shared with us, and we want you to come. But if you're going to do it, we've got to have some assurances. And Murray Webb said, how do we know that you're not going to come down here and just be a laid-back organization? And I said, well, I can give you every assurance that we'll do what's needed here for the community. We'll bend over backwards to meet those needs. When I came down, Murray said, are you willing to promise me, Mr. Jepson, that you will expand the services, you'll keep the quality and keep the cost as low as possible? And I said, absolutely. He reached out, he said, you just acquired a hospital. And I said, that's great, and we'll keep the promises.
Now here we are, half century later, and we have world-class healthcare. We have lived true to the promise of becoming a model healthcare organization. Independent national media like U.S. News and World Report and Newsweek rank St. George at the top.
At St. George Regional Hospital, we have really grown a very comprehensive and robust cardiovascular program here. This includes what's termed structural heart. Essentially what that is what was traditionally reserved for open heart surgeries. Many of these patients now can have much more minimally invasive approaches. Other metrics that we look at when we're measuring our success of how well we're taking care of our patients within the community is how often you're having to come back into the hospital. So we look at readmission rates. And in each one of these categories, we're well below the national average for readmission rates. When somebody comes into the hospital, we typically have a short period of time to actually get into their heart. We're considerably and significantly better at doing that as far as time to door to balloon time than the rest of the country when you look at the national averages.
Here in Southern Utah, we're doing amazing things with stroke. We have excellent stroke care here at St. George Regional Hospital. We are a Joint Commission certified primary stroke center. Once again, the American Heart Association has recognized us for top stroke care. In stroke care, time is brain. When a patient comes to our hospital, we worked really hard to make sure that they get the treatment they need quickly. We are well below the goal times for imaging and treatment for stroke care, and we provide that care extremely quickly. At our hospital, we have capabilities to care for stroke patients that aren't available at other hospitals in the area. If I had a family member who had a stroke, this is where I'd want them to come.
In neurosurgery, we offer amazing care for our brain and spine patients. With neuro-oncology, we have been the first center to offer intraoperative MRI so that we can actually have an MRI scan of the patient's brain, especially with tumors, during surgery. We also are the only center that uses glialin, which is immunofluorescence, where I'm able to see tumor tissue versus brain tissue while I'm doing the operation, and that allows me to be more successful in actually removing the brain tumor, which improves patient outcomes. We're also a spine center of excellence for cervical and lumbar spine surgery and have been for the last 6 years. We've received multiple national awards, and I'm proud to be part of a team that offers the very best in brain and spine care.
The Women and Newborn program at St. George Regional Hospital offers comprehensive services, including a 24/7 pediatric life flight service, a 24/7 neonatal life flight service, a simply birthing option for women who want to have a low intervention delivery, and a pediatric hospitalist team that's available 24/7 to take care of children in the hospital. This team has led to really great outcomes, including a C-section rate lower than the national average, early elective delivery rates lower than the national average, which decreases the likelihood that baby might end up in the neonatal intensive care unit. Additionally, we have an extremely low central line infection rate, with only one central line infection in the last 11 years. We couldn't do anything we do without the incredible people working here. We don't do this for us, we do this for you. We do this for our community. We do this for our families.
Young people entering the field of medicine today will see and do amazing things. We're a national leader in precision genomics right here from St. George, Utah. It's remarkable to consider all that's evolved from a handshake and a promise.
Someday, if I'm ever put on the witness stand, by Murray Webb or any of his ancestry, I'm going to have no trouble at all saying, we more than kept the promise.
So that was Dave Jepson, who passed away in April. He was the executive for Intermountain Healthcare that came down and met with the commissioners back in 1976, and that's how it all began. And we're grateful for all three of you and for what you do for our community and for your support.
How many years? It was a couple years ago we celebrated 40 years, right? 2016, and I can remember you guys had a party down at the hospital, and it was it was almost emotionally for me, because I believe that this was one of the best decisions and partnerships that was made by my predecessors. I have a lot of respect for county commissioners that have gone before us and tried very diligently to lead this county, and I just, President Jepson was my stake president, and I had kind of that emotional connection. One of the finest human beings I've ever come to know in my life.
Yep.
And so, David,
our commitment to him and to you is maybe all of us together. So we'll remember that handshake and a promise that we'll continue to do everything we can to bring world-class healthcare close to home.
Thank you.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank
Thanks. You bet.
Thank you, Terry.
We'll miss you guys, but you'll have to just come back once a year now, I guess. So
Yeah,
hey,
I'm not gonna miss the actual COVID updates. Actually,
Oh no.
no offense. I don't want to see you back here.
Well, thank
Appreciate
you
you.
very much. Our next item is emergency service report from our Washington County Sheriff's Office. Sergeant Cashin, it's good to see you. It hasn't been too hot lately.
What's that?
Hasn't been extraordinarily hot, just warm.
Just uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wouldn't want you to have to put a sweater on in June.
Well, I can tell you, some of my people got very cold the other night, and I'll get to that. Just to go over this since the last report, we had 21 rescues since the last time we reported last month. We are up to 63 for 2022. The man hours for these 21 rescues was 841.
Oh, wow.
Had 7 in-county residents, 13 out-of-county that were Utah residents, and 10 out-of-state. Didn't have anybody international. I don't know if it has something to do with flying gas prices. I don't know. So I'm not going to go through every one of these because there are so many of them, unless you would like me to string out the meeting a little longer. No, Commissioner?
No, thank you. How about the highlights?
Highlights, yeah.
I will hit on a few that I felt were a little bit larger and a little bit beyond. First one I'm going to go to, and I am skipping quite a few. We did have a young man that fell off a cliff south of Santa Clara, and our high angle team went out there and actually ended up, we were going to hoist him, we ended up carrying him out and putting him on life flight. Luckily, he did turn out to be okay. We suspected back injuries on that, and that was back on the 29th of last month. Had another injured hiker in Dalton Wash. He was flown out right before our SAR people got there. He broke his leg. So we've had a lot of singular people out in the back country, and that's where I'm kind of going with this. We got called to assist Iron County up at Newcastle Reservoir on the 14-year-old. So we got called out on that and went up there and ran some sonar. We did some diving, and then we helped the state team when they arrived. It was a little more difficult to find that young man because we didn't have a really good, we got like told 3 different places where he was in that reservoir. So that one we started at 3:45 in the afternoon and got home at 6:30 the following morning. So it was an all-night thing, but we felt it was important to get it done. So, and with the help of the state dive team in Iron County and Brian Head, we got that done. On the 16th, we had a motorcycle accident in east of Brookside, which SAR went in and got. A young man broke his clavicle. That was at 4:30. At 5 o'clock, we were contacted by King County and Zion National Park. They needed help inside the Narrows. So this is the same day, a half an hour later. Had a gentleman in there that had a broken ankle and been there for 3 days. And they were having difficulty getting him out. They've tried what is called a short haul and couldn't get in there. So they asked for our help, so I sent in our team, our high angle team into that, along with Kane County's team. The state helicopter showed up and they were able to get that guy moved in onto the helicopter and out of there. And then the next morning at 9:30, we had another hiker in Water Canyon who fell and broke his ankle. There's a reason why I'm kind of going through the 16th and 17th, because this builds. This was just like it just came at us and just kept coming. So again, the high angle and ground team went up there. They hiked in about 6 miles, got him, and brought him out on a wheeled Stokes. And later that night at 9:20, we got a call for 2 stranded hikers in Red Cliffs, the recreation area up there. They had gone off trail. They were ledged out. Team went out at 9:20. They got home about 2:30 in the morning. They did get to them. They had to raise them up and get them out. And the following day on the 18th, we got a call at 5:20 of an injured hiker up in Anderson Canyon on Pine Valley out of New Harmony. He happened to go down in the one spot he had cell service. I know that because the guys coming up had nothing and the guys coming from the top had nothing. That gentleman had fallen, injured his leg, and then we got word he injured his back and he could not move. It was very difficult. We had a 5-man hiking team. We had 4 on, is there any Forest Service people in here? Okay, we had 4 on motorcycles going in from different routes. And some other people that came by had horses. They had just come out and they went and got their other horses and they went back in with some of our SAR people to supply them. Life Flight was called. It was impossible for them to do anything. They did locate him about 6:10, but the winds were running 50 plus miles an hour, so they couldn't do anything, and they couldn't land in that canyon anyway. So we called the state helicopter. They said they would not come till daylight. It was too risky at night. Out of all the people I sent in, 5 of them made it to him. It took them about 6 hours on a 3-mile, it was line of sight 3 miles from New Harmony Trailhead, but it took them 6 hours to get there.
Holy cow.
It was a really rough country, a lot of deadfall, huge boulders. So they ended up spending the night with him. Kept him warm, kept him stable, gave him what they had. One of my deputies that went in learned he needed to take a coat with him because it gets really cold on Pine Valley, even in the middle of summer. But they did fine. They got him out the next morning with the helicopter, with the DPS helicopter. They hoisted him out and 3 of my SAR people. Unfortunately, the other 2 that left their motorcycles up on top, they couldn't get them back there because of the winds up on top. So they had to hike back out. The equestrian team had to come back out. So just to let you know, that one started at 5:20, and the last guy got home at 3 o'clock the next day. They stayed all night. They worked at it all night, but they couldn't do much but keep him comfortable until they could get the right equipment. So that's kind of what we went through the last several days here.
Wow.
Oof.
And my east side guys and high angle guys said, don't call them for 3 days, they can't walk. Their muscles are shot.
And I think your point was too, that a lot of these were just single hikers.
Single hiker. This gentleman was by himself, and he happened to fall in a place where he could get a text out to his wife. But otherwise, if he'd have been lower or higher, we would probably not know he was there. So I highly recommend people, if they're gonna go single hiking, tell people where you're going, when you plan on coming back, and the route. Where are you gonna park your vehicle so we have an idea where to start? But Pine Valley's a big, big mountain.
It is. I understand the trees and everything are really rough up there. The fires and floods that have been through that country right there changed it a lot.
I was told by the equestrian team that they got as far as they could with horseback, but due to the deadfall and the huge boulders, it looks like it, you know, those fires just really trashed the mountain bad. Been a lot of floods. There's some areas that got like 20-foot high, just deadfall trees that got washed down off the mountain.
Yep.
I believe it.
It looks pretty bad. Down here it looks great. Up there it doesn't look so good. So
Please thank all your team.
Yeah.
Yes, thank
I
you.
will do so.
As always, thank you.
You bet.
Appreciate you. Our next item is consideration of purchase requests. Ray?
Okay, I only have a couple, so hopefully it won't take too long. The first one I have is for the roads. This is for equipment fuel and a total of $55,591.74. And then the second one is for the sheriff's office. This is to reseal and paint 3 parking lots at the sheriff's office. This is a total of $14,161.
Very good.
Unless there's any questions?
Any questions?
Nope.
It's pretty standard.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the purchase request as presented by Ray.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the purchase request. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, the motion passes. Thank you, Ray. Appreciate that.
Thanks, Ray.
Our next item is the results of the Harmony Heights Special Assessment Area protest period. Devin?
Hey, yeah, several months ago, the commission adopted a resolution of a notice of intent to form a special assessment area. This was at the request of several of the residents in the subdivision who wanted to finance and pay for a road in the subdivision. In the notice of intent resolution, the commission indicated that if 40% or more of the residents protested the creation of the assessment area, that the commission would not move forward. And our clerk auditor has received 21 valid protests after she published notice and posted notice as well. That equates to 40.4%, which is enough to stop the creation of that assessment area. So as a result, the county commission will not be moving forward with the creation of that special assessment area. There's no action that's required at this time. It's really just a chance for commission to report on the results of the protest period.
Thanks.
That neighborhood is split very, very close. This is the second time in a couple of years that we've had this come before us. Thank you, Devin. Appreciate that. Our next is report and consideration of the 2020 Washington County tax sale. Susan Lewis,
Commissioners.
our auditor. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How about yourselves?
Very good.
I'm happy to be here to report our successful completion of our 2022 tax sale. It started in about end of February. Our treasurer came up with a list of over 200 names of people who had paid or not paid their property taxes in 5 years. And so they start to be the kind of properties that could go up for bid. And we have concerns somewhat about that happening if there's people living in those properties. We start sending out letters, making phone calls. The treasurer was concerned with me making some of the visits. He went out and did some visits because he was concerned for my safety. But I'll have to say the visits that I did go knock on the doors, they were very friendly and understanding, and we could figure out a way to work. We had probably the one that was the funnest for me was a retired gentleman that had no idea that he had fallen 5 years behind. Hurrying came in and paid his taxes and then found me so that he could shake my hand and say, thank you for showing up at my door. I kind of ignore my mail and that kind of thing. So anyway, what you have in front of you is out of the 200, we were able to get everything but these 6 removed. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, yeah. They did go to tax sale. There were bids made on all of them, but a couple of them actually had a situation where they didn't understand what they were bidding on. And when they actually saw what the property was, they decided not to pay. So the ones that say strike to county, it's because they never did bring in the bids, the payment of the bids. Do you have any questions?
Very good. I think a lot of times people might not appreciate the type of properties that end up on a tax sale. A lot of times they're little leftover pieces. They're pieces that when a subdivision was created, maybe it's not attached to a property, but people assume that it's a property. There's been backyards and stuff, little pieces of landlocked property in the street that end up in this tax sale. But I just want to, thank Susan Lewis and the clerk auditor's office and how in Washington County they work very hard to make sure that we don't sell people's homes. We work with people wherever we can. So most everything that ends up in the tax sale usually is more or less abandoned, and for better words. So
very true.
Thanks for resolving it.
Yeah, thank you. We need a motion on approving the results of the tax sale.
Recommendations, yes, please.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the 6 properties listed in the tax sale.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the tax sales. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, the motion passes. Thank you, Susan. Appreciate you. So, our next item is consideration of ordinance number 2022-1210-0, an ordinance adopting and amending various Title 10 zoning regulations, creating a pilot program for temporary housing, accommodations, and changing various penalty provisions. Scott?
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, did you have one more item there, Susan?
Did I skip? Well, why didn't anybody say anything? I go rattling on this next one.
Did.
Susan's there.
I'm not
okay,
sure.
well, Susan, proceed.
Okay, I'm sorry. This is
Did
one
I
more
skip
audit
any?
timed thing. It's that time of year where we have the certified tax rates. And so we've been reaching out to all of the entities to see who is going through truth and taxation or who is happy with the certified rate that they are receiving for property tax for 2022. The county you have in front of you is the rates that the certified tax rate will automatically, the amount of budget that the certified tax rate will give to the county. And our recommendation is that you would just accept all of them. The only thing that is a little different is our sinking and interest rate fund. We have 2 GO bonds. We are able to pay for the smaller GO bond. It's about $395,000 out of reserves. So we're not going to collect tax, meaning that our taxes will be a little bit less for our citizens as we pay for that out of our savings. Other than that, I would just like you to approve the rates, please.
And I'd be willing to entertain a motion on item 8 now.
Well, I'm happy to add a motion to accept the 2022 certified tax rates for Washington County.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, the motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. Sorry for that awkward moment of...
Well, you were trying to skip
all right, Scott.
taxes.
I thought Susan wanted to take the item for me. So, Commissioners, as you're aware, there's a challenge of affordable housing in Washington County and across our state. It was the idea, as staff talked with the Commission about different ways that we can try to address some of the affordable housing challenges, and it was decided to try this temporary housing accommodation pilot program. And I'll just read a portion of the purpose. It says, the purpose of this section is to create a pilot program to provide an affordable temporary housing accommodation during the current housing crisis. The hope is that it will allow families of owner-occupied homes that if they have a family member that, a kid that's in college or single daughter-in-law or single daughter, that they could live in an RV on their property. We have a lot of larger properties in the unincorporated areas. With land use, everything is a balance of property rights. We need to make sure we want to allow people to do what they want with their property, but we also have to manage how that impacts the neighbors. And we also need to look at the health and safety. And so what we tried to do here is find a way that we could allow people to have individuals stay on their property in an RV, which we already have a definition of an RV, but not let people take advantage of it. And we didn't want someone to be able to come in and short-term rent a bunch of RVs on their properties. We've actually had quite a few complaints about that with individuals renting out multiple RVs. What we are wanting to do is with this pilot program is when we find out, either someone could come into the county, or if we find out about them, we'd contact the property owner, and we would just work with the property owner on making sure that they meet the general health and safety, that the RV is hooked up to the septic and water. We want to make sure that the RV actually has plumbing inside it and that it's a roadworthy an RV. We want to make sure that stuff isn't added on to the RV. We don't want, by our code, an RV is temporary in nature, and we don't want the RV to become permanent. And so, we don't want it placed on foundation, wheels removed, skirting put around, and, AstroTurf and the Pink Flamingo put out. This is just to help out.
Now you're going too far, Scott. I was up to the AstroTurf.
So the flamingos, okay?
I
The
don't
flamingos,
see that in here,
yes.
Scott.
Yeah. But
Flamingos were fine.
But the idea is to see if this helps people out, and to try to monitor it to see if it is helpful. We don't want. We have language in here that it needs to be safe. We don't want, the RV needs to meet setbacks. So, you can say, well, my kid's driving me nuts. I'll put him in the RV in the far corner right next to my neighbor's fence so that he's bugging the neighbor more than me. And so we have setback requirements in there, but we think that this is a good chance, and it's time for us to be creative in trying to solve some of our housing issues.
I like how you call this a pilot program, because really there is a balance that the county has in unincorporated areas. Cities have this all the time, where we're at this real crisis with housing. And so there's been a couple cases in the county, for example, where like you said, a college student or someone who is a member of the family but is staying in an RV, and then you have a neighbor that's very concerned about what their neighbor's doing and is constantly calling. And there's really not a nuisance situation there, but there was no way for us as a county, or as you yourself as a part of community development, to even authorize that, because it was completely prohibited. Now, obviously, I'm in favor of this ordinance, but I am aware that we're going to have to be kind of on top of this and keep an expectation that it'll be exactly what we say it's going to be, and it won't become kind of transient housing, so to speak. And so, but it will allow an option in this very critical time in our unincorporated areas. So.
Yeah, I'm in favor as well. And honestly, one of the cases that you're aware of that we talked about in the kind of the creation of this, I mean, the guy is going to the medical school here. He's going to be a doctor. He's from here. He wants to be a contributing member of society, recently married. His family or his in-laws have a very large lot. and they already had the RV, and he was just staying in it. It was hooked up to an approved septic system already. I mean, so the impact, the water, the septic, to parking, everything was identical, but because he couldn't stay in the RV with his new wife, because that would be not an accessory dwelling. It didn't meet the code as was. And there's no way as a medical student he would ever going to be able to afford a house in this community anymore. Mm-hmm. And so for them and for many others like them, I think this is a great plan, a great pilot program that we need to stay on top of it, make sure that we're not allowing abuse for it, because property rights do exist on both sides of the fence. But in this housing market and in the general economic environment as a whole, I think this is a great way to let people help their children, their family members who are trying to get established, to be able to use some resources they may already have. So I like it.
And it goes without saying that it's not a short-term rental, because they have to be related. If they are related and you're short-term renting to them, that defeats the purpose.
Yeah.
But having said that, it is obscured from the view of the street. There's some certain locations, it's commented in, sunsets in 3 years, just under 3 years. So hopefully by then we'll see what our economy is going to do. If we have to extend it, we could, but I believe that it states well what we're trying to do, especially when so many kids are moving back to their parents, even if they work. It's not that they're sloughing, but they just don't have housing.
I expect this is going to be a great way for families to be able to help out.
Yep.
I like it.
I have one thing I want to add. It is staff's recommendation on the second page under paragraph B, applications and permits required. We just wanted to add the language, no one may live in an RV on a lot or parcel without strictly compliance with this chapter, including its licensing requirements.
You want that to be as part of the paragraph B?
Yes.
Okay. To answer Chairman Iverson's concern, Brent Cardall is here. He does a great job in the county. I think, one, letting people be aware of what they're doing that they technically can't do, or there's some violation, not onerous right up on front, but rather working with them and instructing. Seldom does it get to the point where we take any legal action, but I think in this case, with the applications, your job will be easier than it was before, because somebody calling a neighbor saying, hey, they just moved this RV behind their house and now they're living in it and I don't like that. You can say, well, the proper procedure was followed and they are hooked up properly and things like that. That'll help. Okay.
And Brent's not against pink flamingos as much as Scott is.
Yeah.
On this issue.
Well,
as long as they're tastefully done.
I'd also like to note that Scott does not care about water, because maybe the AstroTurf was trying to be water-wise in this drought, Scott.
Yeah.
We better take a motion on this.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve resolution or ordinance number 2022-1210-0 with the recommended language by staff, and that's my motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. The motion passes. Thank you,
Thank
Scott.
you, staff.
Our next item is consideration of resolution R-2022-2956, a resolution approving social media advertising service agreement with Mason Converse Media. Sarah,
Commissioners, hello.
it is so good to see you.
As well as you. The Greater Zion Washington County Tourism Office is looking to renew the contract of Mason Converse, who has for the last 2 years successfully managed all of our social media platforms. That includes sussing through everything that is said about us on the web, answering people's questions to our posts, and creating original content for us. That goes deeper as far as even creating video content, taking photos, and those kind of things that get used in repeated functions throughout the year, or all eternity for that matter. So just looking to renew that, looking for another year as far as that goes, pretty standard repeat. Any questions?
Do you feel like, obviously we're not their only client.
No, we are not their only client.
Do you feel like you're getting proper amount of time and the results that you're asking for?
We made some revisions slightly in this contract to adhere to some deadlines that hopefully will improve that. But Mason and her team Mason mainly has been a great representative with us, spends time with our team, interacts with all of us to kind of let social media inform what we do on the website, other marketing, consults with us as far as what events to put out there, those kind of things. So there's a lot of interaction. And overall, she does a great job. We get compliments all the time on our social media presence.
Good.
Very good. Well, thank you. Do we have any other comments or a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the resolution number R 2022-2956 for social media advertising through Mason Converse.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion passes. Thank you, Sarah.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Chairman.
that. Our next item is a consideration of Resolution R-2022-2957, a resolution regarding municipal nominations of board members or districts in the county. And I'll speak to this a little bit and maybe have Devin chime in if I don't cover it all. But there's a number of special service district boards and boards that are established through MOUs where the cities have representation. We've never had a real clear policy on how those nominations are brought forward to us. This resolution before us would basically say that we are going to be asking the cities to bring that forward by a vote of their legislative body and resolution, and that way we kind of have a clear direction, and it'll make it a little more official than what it is right now. Up to this point, we've just basically asked a lot of times the mayor or somebody to give us a recommendation, and sometimes, and I don't know if it's going to be ongoing, but there's sometimes not a complete agreement between maybe the councils and their mayors, and so this is just going to give us a clearer process.
That's right.
That's right? Okay, very good.
Anytime our attorney says, basically, that's right, we can move forward.
Very good.
There are always qualifications. They're implied in everything I say, but
Your disclaimer.
with some qualifications. No, I'm just kidding.
He's
That
walking
all
it back
sounds
really
He's walking it
quickly.
back.
great, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve Resolution R-2022-2957, resolution regarding municipal nominations of board members for districts in the county.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, the motion passes. Item 12 is consideration of Resolution R-2022-2958, a resolution reappointing members to the Washington County Career Service Council. Commissioner Almquist?
Well, I know Richard and Dave very well, and both of them are fair in their assessment of various things brought to this council. So my motion is to approve their reappointment till June 20th, 2025.
And that is Richard Kohler and Dave Sterling.
Yep.
And this is a Career Service Council is a board that we hope we never have to use, but it's important to have, so. We have a motion
I'll second it.
and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, the motion passes. Our next item is consideration of Resolution R-2022-2959, a resolution amending the source of funding for 2 tourism developments at the St. George Fields at Little Valley. And Brittany, it is good to see you.
Good to see you. So these
You kind of snuck up on me there.
I'm sorry. I do that. I'm quiet. These 2 projects were approved by the commission a couple of months ago, and as we began looking at the funding for these projects, we realized that they really did have a good representation of both the transient room tax and the TRCC budget, which is Tourism, Recreation, Cultural, and Convention. And so we are proposing an amendment to take 20% of those projects out of the TRCC budget.
And before it had been pretty much out of TRT, which is our hotel tax.
Yes.
And so.
All right.
Very good.
Well, it only makes sense, so move that we approve resolution number R-2022-2959, amending the source of funding for 2 tourism developments at Fields at Little Valley.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
The motion passes. And for anybody following along at home, I just always have to remind people that TRT is transient room tax. TRCC is a tax that primarily comes from restaurants and other hospitality venues, but neither one of those are property tax. This is not a general fund item. Our next item is a consideration of Resolution R-2022-2960, a resolution approving an agreement with the Indigent Defense Commission for reimbursement of certain eligible costs related to child welfare proceedings. And Devin, I have you down to speak to this.
Yes, so the county has certain obligations to provide indigent defense here in the county, and part of that is representation for parents who are facing child welfare proceedings. And some of those costs are recoverable from the federal government. And what this agreement does is the Utah Indigent Defense Commission will actually put together a request, collect invoices and so on, and seek reimbursement for some of those costs, allowable costs, and forward those to the county. So that's what you're being asked to approve today.
So how is that going to work? Is it going to be that we'll be reimbursed, or we bill back?
You would be reimbursed for allowable costs.
And they will collect
right
from the federal program. Very good.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve Resolution R-2022-2960, a resolution approving an agreement with the Indigent Defense Commission for reimbursement on certain eligible costs related to child welfare proceedings.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on that item. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, the motion passes. Item 15 is consideration of resolution R-2022-2961, a resolution approving cooperation letters for grant applications for tourism marketing. And Sarah, you guys are, I have a name here, and then it just you're throwing me off. But Sarah,
sorry.
it's good to see you.
Sorry, I'm stepping in. We are dealing with TRT monies once again, so just speaking to that, we'll set the stage with that. As you gentlemen know, the Utah Office of Tourism every year gives us the opportunity to apply co-op dollars, apply for co-op dollars up to $250,000 with an allocated match from our TRT funds. It's a grant process and a grant application, so we put in applications for that. Concerning certain projects, our projects this year are approximately just shy of $10,000 to attend for Jacqueline in our meetings and conventions department, to attend some conferences to generate business and network and those kind of things. And then a larger project of around $240,000 with matching funds. That'll be, $480. You can do the math. That will get us a brand new Greater Zion tourism guide. So the idea there is that we're continuing to expand in the county, have more tourism offerings. We need more pages. The guide hasn't been updated officially for quite a few years. So just looking at those dollars to do that. Part of the application process is to put in a letter of recommendation from the commission, and thus speaking to not just the support of it, but also the dollars, saying that we do have the matching dollars. So that will all be submitted tomorrow. We're cutting this short. And then approval comes in August of those projects.
Very good.
Question?
Well, it's pretty standard. We've done this multiple times before. Well, so.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve resolution number R-2022-2961, approving cooperation letters for grant applications for tourism marketing.
Second that.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
The motion passes. Our next item is item 16, consideration of resolution R-2022-2962, a resolution approving an office lease to the State of Utah Department of Administrative Service Divisions of Facility Construction and Management. Nicole Belshaw? Sometimes I need to wear glasses, but I'm still fairly prideful.
Correction might have been accurate.
So we have several leases out there where we partner with the state and lease different facilities to them for office space. And this is just one of those the Department of Commerce. Is that the one that I'm referring to here? I'm sorry.
Doppel. Yeah, no, that's
Yeah.
okay.
So the Department of Commerce reached out to me earlier this year and asked if we had any space in sort of an area where we're renting to other state agencies. We happen to have coming up once our new building is complete, we will be moving our Habitat Conservation Group, our Desert Reserve team, over to the new building, which will free up space over at our office plaza. It just happens that the majority of that building is rented already by the state, the Department Child Welfare Services Group. So we just figured it was a great fit. They came and looked at the space that we could provide. They're really happy about it. So this is just a lease between the county and the state that will allow them to take that area once we have vacated. We're going to do, some minor changes to it, but very, very minor, and then they will begin January of 2023 with the lease for a 5-year term, and then it has a couple of 5-year renewal options in there. So it's before you today, recommendation to accept that lease agreement.
And if I might add one more thing, we're still firming up a couple of incidental details with the state. So if in the resolution you could authorize us to, or approve subject to legal counsel's review and approval, that would be great.
Very good. Well, I would like to make a motion that we adopt Resolution R-2022-2962, a resolution approving an office lease to the State of Utah Department of Administrative Services Divisions of Facility Construction and Management. That's my motion.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
The motion passes. Our next item is consideration of Resolution R-2022-2963, a resolution approving a public defender agreement for indigent defendants in the 5th Judicial District Court. And this is something that we do quite often. I was not a part of these interviews. Nicole Felshaw, our county administrator, does this. But resolution before us is approving a contract with Ryan D. Stout. Is that correct?
Yeah, and if I may, Mr. Chair, and this one is a little bit unique before you. This is a grant-funded that this defender will specialize in cases where the criminal defendant has been charged with homicide or attempted homicide. And so this is specific to those kinds of cases.
I thought we had outlawed homicide in the county, so it shouldn't happen.
I think it's in the book somewhere.
And I think I could add to that a little bit. So at our attorney's office, they have 2 prosecuting attorneys that really focus on these cases. So we thought that this year we would ask the Indigent Defense Commission to fund. We asked for 2, and they came back and funded 1. So we thought that was fantastic. We actually held interviews. I was part of the interviews along with our Indigent Defense Recommending Board that we've put together. And we had several interested in this position, and we thought that Ryan would be the best fit for it, and he's really excited, and we're actually really excited to see this actually will allow some really heavy cases that take a lot of time to put together to go into a trial. He will be able to focus his time on that and really get prepared for those cases, and then it allows our other public defender group to have maybe a little bit less of a burden of worrying about those really heavy cases plus their other load. So, it's kind of a test period for this year, but we're really hoping for great things, and that they'll be able to be more prepared and really represent well, and that our other public defenders will feel a little bit of relief of their caseload.
Fantastic.
Good.
Can I add one other thing, Mr. Chairman? Because those cases are quite time intense, one change I've made since the version that you have before you, there is typically a requirement that the public defender take on roughly 1/8 of the entire caseload for indigent defendants. I've removed that one and just indicated that this person would cover all of these cases. So they have a smaller caseload, but they're more time-intense cases. So
Right
just
now,
wanted to
our
highlight
public
that.
defending contracts are basically assigned to a judge, and they split the load, comes into that courtroom, right?
Right.
For the most part, and this is really going to be assigned on a per-needed basis.
Based on the case type.
I think we currently have 7 right now in the system, and the only thing that he won't manage is anything that has the death penalty marked with it. You have to have certain criteria for that. Doug Terry currently has that specific,
Certification. and
yes,
stuff.
certifications, thank you. And I think that after a while, I would imagine Ryan will get there because he'll really be focusing on these cases or whatever. But nonetheless, anything that's not death penalty, on the table, he will be managing.
Very good. Well, I'll accept a motion on this resolution.
Chairman, I move we approve resolution number R-2022-2963, approving a public defender agreement for indigent defendants in the 5th Judicial District Court. Do I need to amend anything on that?
With the change of.
With change as recommended by our Deputy County Attorney.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye, the motion passes. Our next item is consideration of resolution R-2022-2964, a resolution approving a lead public defender agreement for indigent defense in the 5th Judicial District Court. And I have before, Nicole, would you like to speak to this as well?
So we also split very recently, as you're aware, we split. Doug Terry used to have a full caseload, plus he was the lead public defender. A few months ago, we split that, and we just had him just solely focusing on being the lead public defender, and hopefully he has a lot more time to actually help the other public defenders throughout the year. The one thing that we did is when we went back out to the IDC grant, we asked for a little bit of additional amount of money because Doug Terry was doing that almost at no charge. And so when we split his contract, we felt like it would be a good idea if we just kind of compensated him just a little bit more. So we did. The grant allowed that, and we received that for over at least the next year. And so this is really just coming back before you today to recognize that additional pay bump for him until December, or until the following June, when we go back to the IDC team to ask for a renewal of the grant and
Very
the
good.
money associated with it.
Super.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve resolution R-2022-2964, approving a lead public defender agreement for indigent defense in the 5th District Court.
And I second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, the motion passes. Item 19 is consideration of resolution R-2022-2965, a resolution approving a social service block grant agreement with 5 County Association of Government. Commissioner Almquist, I have you down to speak to this.
These block grants require so many applications and justification and all kinds of things, and they really do good. But we do have certain requirements, and the resolution for providing these social services always come with some sort of, I wouldn't say red tape, but let's just say follow-up. And this agreement just spells that out.
Very good. Is that a motion?
That's a motion.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, the motion passes. Item 20 is consideration of resolution R-2022-2966, a resolution approving the execution of interlocal cooperative agreements for the safety and security of elections regarding official ballot drop boxes between various municipalities and Washington County. We have our county clerk, Susan Lewis. You were scaring me there for a second as I
moved.
I looked at you, you're like, oh.
I didn't know if you needed me to speak to this. So the state legislature, as you're aware, had additional laws that were passed in 2022. One of them included a law for us to have either surveillance on drop boxes if they're outside of a jurisdiction or if they're in like a city office. that they could be monitored by the clerks of those cities, and therefore people could drop off their ballots to their own municipality and maybe give them a little bit more comfort. So we've had the interlocal agreements drawn up and sent them out to the different cities. This is for your approval of our side of it, but each of them are working on getting their mayor and city councils to approve us to have a drop box in their location, an official drop box at their city offices.
Very good, Susan. I'd like to thank you for all the hard work that you and your office does in regards to elections. I know that we've had a lot of our good citizens are concerned about election integrity, and we've also been trying to almost build the ship while we're sailing it, right? As the state legislature had a variety of requirements, and at the same time you're conducting elections, and so I think you've done a fantastic job at fulfilling the requirements of the law to make sure that we have camera and observation on these boxes, as well as looking forward to how to even improve it and secure it even more. So
we felt like that most of the cities that we reached out to, most of them were quite excited to have a drop box at their location. So I think it's a win-win.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve resolution number R-2022-2966, approving the execution of interlocal cooperation agreements for the safety and security of elections regarding official ballot drop boxes between various municipalities in Washington County.
I second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, the motion passes. Our next item is consideration of resolution R-2022-2967, a resolution approving leases of county ambulances to transporting agencies in Washington County. Commissioner Almquist, I have you down to speak to this.
Yeah, it's been...
I think you and Chief Coleman had an opportunity to go deliver a few ambulances, and...
He won't like this, but I'd like him to come up to the mic and just kind of tell his take on how these will be effective throughout the county. And I can say that myself, Commissioner Snow went as well, and I know that they were appreciative because it lets them have two deep ambulance service. But you take over.
You covered it
there.
well, Commissioner. No, thanks to the commission for providing ambulances to the transport agencies in Washington County. An ambulance was delivered first to Hilldale, to the Hurricane Valley, one to Enterprise, and one to Santa Clara Ivans. It allows these agencies to have ambulances that can be ready to go in service if and when we're transporting a patient who may be contagious. This is the way that we funded these ambulances. It takes up to an hour if we get somebody with a certain contagion to go in and decontaminate the entire ambulance. You can think about that, having to ask someone who's dialed 911, please hold. You're on queue. It'll be 45 more minutes till this ambulance is in service. This gives us the ability to put an ambulance in service immediately. And as we deliver those to each agency, the commissioners that joined with us, I think it would be an understatement to say that they were very grateful for the commission for what they've done. But increase the ability for our regular transports as well as these remain county assets that allow us to use them for major events in the county.
Right. And the intent for which is that we can call them in, so to speak, if we have a major push or an event that we feel like we need to have extra backup there. And they may even send their crews or what have you, but the point being is that it will enhance the ability to transport, especially under, as you said, situations. And primarily, too, because if somebody's in an ambulance with somebody that had COVID, for example, or any other agent that we're going to face, they too have to deal with their own ability to clean themselves up. It's more than just a shower, and there are also activities. So
correct.
I got the distinct impression that in each of these agencies that they're concerned with how they're going to man that new ambulance, but that it puts a little fire under them to get more trained paramedics, more trained responders, and I think that they all agreed that despite the shortage of those trained personnel, they're going to do it.
I think it'll be used quite often.
I agree.
Fortunately.
Yeah, that's true.
And the funding source for these 5 ambulances was the CARES Act that came out. And it was important to us when that funding came is that it not be wasted, that it be spent for real community assets that would be beneficial and also kind of fit the letter of the law. Supply chain, it's taken us this long to get these. And I understand that you and Jason Whipple and others went all the way to Texas to pick them up and drive them. Now, when you're driving across those states, especially through the reservation, were you tempted just to turn on the lights and do kind of a convoy thing? You don't have to answer. It's on the record. That's very bad. Your legal counsel will advise you not to answer that question.
Under advice of legal, no, I can say we obeyed the laws through all the different areas.
Very good.
So they had names of cities on them. We wanted to be respectful to those various cities.
When we were going out to Hilldale, Chief was in front of me. There was some distance between us, and this car out of the blue just decides to pass. Now, I didn't have lights or sirens, so you can pass an ambulance, right? Not 10 seconds later, this other car coming the other direction decided to, anyway, it was one of those chicken moments. I hit the brakes and backed off to give this person some room, and they slipped in. If there had been an accident, though, I would have thought they said, hey, there's an ambulance right here. Okay, let's see, where's the Band-Aid? Because I really can't do a whole lot. I do have an ambulance, but I am not, it's kind of like I had a good night's rest in a Holiday Inn, but I am not a paramedic.
I was watching in my mirror. I would have put you to work.
Okay.
I had the Band-Aids.
You were there.
Yep.
Okay.
I can also attest that Chief Coleman, I think, disabled the lights and sirens because I was tempted to turn them on, and I could not flip it on, and they didn't come on. So he didn't turn them on until I was out of the ambulance. So
very good. Very smart.
Well, I move that we approve the resolution number R 2022-2967, approving leases.
I'm sorry to interrupt, Commissioner. This one is also in the review stage a little bit, so if you could also approve subject to legal review on this one as well, so we can work through those final details.
Okay, approving leases of county ambulances to transporting agencies in Washington County pending legal review.
And I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, the motion passes. Our next item is Commissioner's Report. And I would just like to say that it's been our goal for quite a while to get out and do more outreach, so to speak. And we will be tomorrow at the Washington Library, correct, Joel Tucker?
At 6 o'clock.
Starting at 6 o'clock. And we want to have, part of that will be about libraries in particular, and just trying, libraries are, me and Joel talk about this quite a bit, and we've had a little bit of dialogue in our commission meetings about it being one of those things that are kind of, as technology changes, as people's sources of information change, we still want to keep our county libraries relevant and keep the use high. Our public do use and enjoy our libraries, and so we have sent out some of that to people to come in and discuss the future of libraries and then other items that might be on their mind as well, just to kind of give a little bit more of a public hearing setting. I know a lot of times people talk about the fact that our commission meetings start at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. A lot of that is to facilitate staff and other reasons. And this is just an opportunity, and we'd like to invite anybody to come out tomorrow at the Washington Library at 6 o'clock.
And I think the importance there too is that a lot of people don't know what commissioners do or what powers we have. They come in and they say, well, you should fight back on that, or you should tell them that they can't do that. It might be completely out of our ability to do that. Yeah. Another thing, often, I'm glad that our clerk auditor is still here. Some people don't understand the budget, and we want to answer budget questions. How it originates, how departments and other electeds put together that budget for the upcoming year, and their forecasting, as well as, what funds they won't need, and yet they shift them to areas as they transition into new technology or wherever. So those things. Now, I did get a call the other day, and the caller said, I can't seem to find the $41 million that came from Ironman. And I said, well, it's not in the budget. That's a county-wide economic impact that's based on a formula that the governor's office and others have put together as to how these events that we hold have an economic impact on our community, whether it's the transient room tax you talked about or the TRCC and other just basic expenses that these expense that they pay out, and it impacts our economy. But they were so certain that $41 million went straight into our budget. That's not how that operates. And so we try to answer questions like that, which are simply explainable, but that for the public, we want to reach out and let them know how that worked.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I would just reiterate those points by also saying that you kind of forfeit the right to complain. If you have an opportunity, you can come, you can have your voice heard, you can talk, none of us have ever claimed to have every good idea in the world, so come and share ideas and concerns, and for anybody who has been an advocate for certain issues, Larry has done many, but things actually change when people hear from you, they hear your story, they hear how it actually impacts people. So come and let us hear and learn and work things out together. And you also realize that some of these are more complex than they may seem from the armchair while reading the news. So, yeah, I would absolutely echo that. I would also say, just while I have the mic then, thanks for covering me while I was out of the country last meeting. I knew that the county was in good hands, even without me. And I just wanted to give a shout out, which we will inevitably do again after the election period, but to Susan and her team, her entire office. I was here after some meetings on Friday. I went to go volunteer and rip open some ballots and help process, and they were just kind of wrapping up. But as they left, one of them said, "Okay, see you tomorrow." And I said, "Tomorrow's Saturday. What are you thinking?" "Yep, we'll be here on Saturday." And then somebody else said, "Okay, see you Monday." I said, "Well, Monday's a holiday." "Yep, we'll be here on Monday." And so for all of the work that you and your entire staff are doing, and the volunteers and those employees that have come in just to help process ballots, thank you. And most people don't realize that they were here on holidays and weekends. When everybody else got to stay home and mow the lawn or whatever they were doing, your team was still counting ballots.
Thank you. Well, our next item on our agenda is a consideration of closed session to discuss lease and real property. And so that is
I move that we enter into a closed session to discuss lease real property.
And I'll second that motion.
So we have a motion to enter into closed session to discuss lease of real property. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion passes. We will now go into closed session for those items. look, I was thinking about you in there. I was like, man, what? Did the camera guys just take off? I mean, so.
Okay,
Okay, very good. Very good. We are back in open session, and we now have two remaining items on our agenda. Item 24 is consideration of whether to submit an offer of lease, part of the new, let's see.
Yep.
No, yeah, the current administration building to the United States of America.
Mr. Chair, this is following a discussion with various members of the federal court who would like to have office space in this current location at 197 East Tabernacle. And I authorize the chair to approve this short-term rental agreement, or lease rather, with the federal government for certain space already determined at the rate already determined by legal counsel, plus any supplemental agreements that may be added into this lease agreement that they've already provided, or at least this offer to lease this space.
And I second that.
We have a motion and a second on item 24. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion passes. Our next item is item 25, consideration of whether to submit an offer to lease part of the new administration building to Senator Romney, Senator Lee, and Representative Stewart.
Mr. Chair, I move that we continue to explore the lease options and submit an offer for the execution of these leases based upon attorney review.
Second.
Very good. We have a motion and a second on item 25. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion passes. At this time, we have finished our agenda and we stand adjourned.